This episode begins with Thomas already grumbling to the other engines. He's complaining about his duties as a station pilot, sick of always having to just pull the other coaches about, ready for the bigger engines to take. They just laugh at his grumblings, like adults finding amusement in young children complaining about things. Gordon tells him that Thomas is too impatient and would leave stuff behind, but Thomas stands firm in his belief that he would never do anything of the sort. One night, while Henry and Thomas are in the sheds, Henry gets ill and isn't recovered by the morning. Henry being sick and not working properly will become important later, so just put that in the back of your mind for now. Because Henry is unable to pull the train, Thomas gets the idea that it'll fall to him to do the job. He gets really excited at the prospect, and acts impatiently while getting the coaches ready, which earns him a good scolding from his driver. Apparently, there's also a Jedi working at Knapford who can close the doors by using the Force. Very cool. As the time to leave with the coaches draws near, Thomas gets more and more excited. The Fat Controller emerges from his office, wondering what's happening, and when he's informed of the situation, he decides to let Thomas be the one to pull the train. Thomas is overjoyed at finally getting his chance to prove himself, but perhaps acts a little too eager. Now, this next line by Ringo is potentially one of my favourite lines from the whole series.
What happened then, no one knows. Perhaps they forgot to couple Thomas to the train, or perhaps the driver pulled the lever by mistake.
It sounds simultaneously mysterious, playful, and comedic all at once, with those 5 words just exemplifying, partly why I like the writing of these early seasons so much. The fact that it's left unclear exactly what occurred there on the platform that led to Thomas not being coupled up just makes it even funnier to me. Thomas speeds off, whilst under the impression that his train is actually still attached, leaving everyone behind at the station. What happens next is just hilarious. Thomas sees railwaymen in a signal box waving at him to make him stop, but he just thinks that they're waving at him because he's such a splendid engine. Due to the lack of any sort of weight behind him, Thomas is under the false impression that he's pulling the coaches easily, making him think he's actually doing it really better than Henry. I really like the music here. It's really pleasant and friendly sounding as Thomas happily puffs down the line. Finally, he comes to a stop at a danger signal, annoyed that his little fun had to be halted. The signalman tells Thomas that he was mistaken about pulling the train, and the little blue tank engine is absolutely mortified, and immediately goes back to the station to try and rectify his mistake. He eventually does return, and all the passengers are having a hissy fit. They change their tune pretty quickly when they see how sad Thomas is though. This time, Thomas makes sure that he's coupled up properly before leaving, and he happily finishes his task. The other engines find his mistake absolutely hilarious and take the mick out of him. And then, the episode comes to an end, with him looking very unhappy. Thomas's Train is the second episode to feature Thomas as a main character, and once again has things going wrong with him. Geez, he can't catch a break, can he? He's only had 2 episodes in so far, and he's already been dragged behind an express at high speed, failed to pull Henry out of the tunnel, and then utterly embarrassed himself by leaving a train behind. Poor guy. The incident was pretty hilarious though. I mean, I didn't actually laugh out loud or chuckle, but it was incredibly amusing, especially since we hadn't really seen anything that comedic up until now in the series. I really like the sets on show here, especially this level crossing with the house, and all the people watching Thomas pass. It really shows how people enjoy coming out and watching the engines in action, which presumably was something which also happened in the olden days. I have to assume that Thomas's crew were completely unaware of the fact that Thomas wasn't actually coupled up, because why else would they drive off like that? Either they didn't know and drove Thomas under the assumption that all was well, or they did know but were unable to stop Thomas as he was driving himself. Take your pick. It's a fun episode that shows Thomas being humbled. The message here is loud and clear. Don't get too impatient and overexcited before doing something, because you might mess it up and cause problems for both yourself and others. Yeah, it was funny here, but that may not always be the case. Thank you for watching. Come back next week for what may be one of my personal favourite episodes of the whole series.